Hello, my name is Martin, and today I'm going to tell you a little bit about a welder that I bought. I will tell you a little bit about why I bought this type of welder, and also I will tell you a little bit about what I found out when I first started to weld with this machine. So first off, why did I buy this type of welder? It's a MIG 100. It's a cheap welder. You can buy it for probably around 150 euros. I see a lot of people buying a similar machine. I think it's the same machine, but it goes in different names. For me, as an engineer, I don't get to weld a lot. I do it basically because I like it. I think it's fun to do. So I basically just wanted to have a welder. I used to weld with MIG, so I bought a machine which can do MIG. And also, basically, I don't have a lot of money, and you do need a lot of gear, but you do need some gear to go with it, like a helmet and a good pair of gloves and a grinder and several other things like that. So, in my mind, I could either spend 1,000 euros, not knowing if I would use the welder a lot, or just go and try and buy a cheap one and see if I like it. Also, yeah, just see how much I use it. Also gather the rest of the stuff that I need, like a good welding helmet, etc. And yeah, just go from there. My opinion is that if you can weld on a crappy welder, you can most definitely weld on a proper welder. So, what's the difference between a $150 welder or a Euro welder and a 1,000 euro welder? Well, to begin with, normal MIG welders have a gas bottle to go with it, with aircon or and they have several switches. You can weld with gas, and you can adjust the amperage and the voltage and the wire speed and some other things. Most of the times you can switch also between flux wire and gas or non-filled wire, non-flux wire. And with a cheap welder you have basically none of that. You're very limited to the thickness of the material, and also you cannot really adjust a lot. So basically you have the very cheap machines, which I have here. You basically cannot adjust anything, only the wire speed, and there's a high and low function on the machine. So what does flux wire mean, and what is it that we need to look out for? So flux wire is a wire that is the welding wire on the outside, and on the inside you have basically the powdered gas to help you create a nice weld. I know how to weld a little bit with a normal welder. I never welded with a flux welder, and so this was the first time for me. I didn't look up any videos about how to weld with flux wire. So when I started, I was a little bit confused. First off, when you start welding with a flux welder or with a flux wire, you'll get a lot of white dust over your material, and I thought the welder was not properly set up, but that's normal with flux wire. The second thing is that the noise is different, and there are a lot of more splatter of material. So that's something you have to look out for as well. Now, since this is a cheap machine, another thing you need to look out for is how you prepare your material. If you grab a piece of steel, it'll probably be dark. And that's a little skin that's on top of the material, and a proper welder, you can up the amperage and it will burn through the upper skin. This cheap kind of welder does not do that, so you need to clean up the material so you can see the lighter steel from underneath the skin. When you clean this welder properly, you will get nice welds. If you don't clean your steel, then you can see that the bottom of the weld will not fully attach to the material that you're trying to weld. I will insert some pictures of my first tests when I did not clean my material and did not remove the skin that's on top of the material. So I have just some random pieces of material which I try and weld to this steel plate that I also got.
First thing that you probably notice is that there's a lot of material spatters around the tests that I made, which is apparently normal when you are welding flux with flux wire. The second thing that you might see is that the welds are not very clean and not very nice. This is because of not cleaning the material properly. And also you can see the white powdery substance on the material, which is also again common when you use flux wire.
Now, on my second try, I read a little bit about what I should and should not do with a flux wire weld. So first off, I started to clean the metal, and I started to clean my piece, and then basically I repeated what I was already doing. So I had some small pieces of material that I could weld together, but they were all quite thick pieces of material, and this kind of welder does not really like thick pieces. So I had to find a little bit thinner piece of material, and that created a lot nicer welds. Now, I will insert some pictures, but looking at the first welds that I made, the welds are thick, and they are rounded on the edges, so they don't fully connect the materials together, and they don't burn into the material properly. On the second attempt that I did, the material was burned way further into it, and you get a nice chamfer in the weld, and it shows that the materials are really properly connected, and that's something that's important if you want to have structurally sound welds. Now, since this is a cheap machine, I don't know how structurally sound the welds are, or if they only look pretty, but you know, for the work that I want to do with it, and that's basically designing furniture and do some small things with it, it should be perfectly fine. I will use thin materials, and you know, if a weld looks nice, then you don't have to grind it down, so that's also a big advantage. So with this machine comes a very cheap welding mask. This mask, it's made of very cheap plastic, and it's not really nice. Especially because when you're welding with this kind of welding hood or shielding mask or whatever, you don't have two hands free. And so the first thing I did was buy a proper helmet. It's adjustable, and you can use it for grinding and whatnot, and you can adjust the brightness of the weld and the type of welding that you do. So it's safe to use, and it's just better quality, and you've got both hands free to weld. Secondly, I buy a nice pair of gloves. If you don't look out, you burn yourself, because of course welding makes the material very hot, so it's easy to burn yourself. Another very important thing is this spray, which you spray into your torch, and it prevents the sparks from attaching to your torch. So basically you can keep your welder clean with this anti-spatter spray. Next thing is a set of pliers, which you use to remove the small splatters that are in your torch, so you can keep your torch nice and clean. Especially if you weld with gas, it's nice to keep a continuous flow, so it's good to have a clean torch. Also, as I mentioned, flux welding wire gives off this white powdery flare over the material, so you need to clean it. Currently I only have this steel brush. I like to have one for my power tools, so I can clean it more quickly and also more deeply, because currently my welds are still covered a little bit in some kind of a skin, and also in a white powder. And by using a power tool grinder, it will clean my weld nicely. I don't want to grind my weld down, because firstly now I want to see how my weld looks, if I'm on the right way, and secondly I just want a nice and clean material.
So again, here you can see a little bit of what I try to do. Now I use clean material and also use thinner material to weld too, and as you can see the welds are a lot nicer. I don't know if this is actually considered a good weld. I mean, as I mentioned, I'm not a professional welder, I'm an engineer. I'm doing this because I like to do it, and I thought I'd share some of my experience about this cheap machine and flux welding. And but as you can see, the welds close at the bottom, and also they just look a lot nicer. So as you can see from the pictures, it's quite easy to insert the wire. You just mount the spool by removing the screw on top, insert the spool. It is in the instructions. The instructions itself are poor in my opinion. They speak about that you can connect this machine to gas bottles and weld also with different wire than flux wire. In my opinion, that's not possible with this machine, so I don't think this manual is supposed to be with this machine, but okay. I read in the comments the same, but I mean, inserting the wire is very simple, and that's basically one of the only things that you need to know. This is also why I make this short review of this machine, so you get a little bit of more information on the machine and how you should start to work to get reasonably good results, in my opinion. So in the next piece of this video I'm gonna gear up and I'm gonna weld several of these angles together, and let's see how this welds with two thinner pieces of material instead of one thicker piece and one thinner piece, as I showed you before. So I have my gloves on. First thing I'm going to do is spray a little bit of anti-stickiness spray into the torch, so that I won't have a lot of spatter in my machine or in my torch. Of course I will turn on the machine, it will make a little bit of noise. I put these two pieces of material together so that yeah, I can tag them together, and when I've tagged them together I can start a proper weld. The thing I noticed, by the way, is that if you're gonna do a lot of tests like I did on the first test piece that I showed you, this machine will get hot very quickly, and I think you can weld with it about around 6 minutes, and then it needs 10 minutes to cool down. So that's really annoying if you are doing some more work. But of course now I'm only doing this small piece, so it should not be that bad. So we'll let it cool off and see what we made. So I just welded this one piece. I thought I might need more, but you know, this one came out quite nice. So one thing to make sure is that have proper ventilation when welding. The big advantage of flux welding is actually that you can weld outside, and since the gas is inside the wire, it won't blow away as easy as normal gas wire. So I hope you like this small video about the MiG-100. Mine is from Wolfsburg, as you could see in the pictures. I showed you a little bit about why I bought this machine and what type of materials you can weld with it, what you can expect from the welder, and how you could get a proper result, I think. Of course, again, I'm not a professional welder. If there are other people yeah, who can give tips and advice, please do so. Yeah, and I hope that if you buy a similar cheaper variety welder, that you have some help
in this video. Of course there are a lot of other professional welders on YouTube that make other videos. This is basically a starter pack for this type of machine, I think, and well, if you have any questions, just look around YouTube and you'll find the answers. I will try to upload more videos if this reaches an audience, and yeah, just see what happens. Thank you for watching.